In the classic film Pinocchio, Pinocchio is a wooden boy, and when he comes to life, he's given this very special gift. And his name is Jiminy Cricket. And Jiminy Cricket will become Pinocchio's conscience, so that whenever Pinocchio is not sure what he is supposed to do, if he's not sure what's right from wrong, what's going to help him to be a good boy, he's supposed to give a little whistle, and Jiminy Cricket shows up, and he can talk to his conscience. There's the main song. I just want to read to you the phrases. If you can whistle with me. I don't know if I'm really that good at it, but here it is. When you get in trouble and you don't know right from wrong, give a little whistle. Oh, we got some whistlers. All right, good. When you meet temptation and the urge is very strong, give a little whistle. All right. Not just a little squeak, pucker up and blow, and if your whistle's weak, yell, Jiminy Cricket. Take the straight and narrow path, and if you start to slide, give a little whistle. Take the straight and narrow path, and if you start to slide, give a little whistle. Wow, impressive. You guys should all be in the whistling choir. When we proclaim the gospel, right before we do that, we make the sign of the cross on our forehead, on our mouths, and on our lips. And why do we do that? We're signing ourselves, and we're acknowledging the holiness and the presence of God in our mind, in our mouths, and in our lips. And we hear this in both the first reading and the gospel. The first reading, we hear that the Lord is already near to you, in your mouth and in your heart. And we hear in the gospel, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, with all your mind. And so the Lord is present to us in those ways. We all have a conscience. It's a supernatural reality. It's a gift that we are given to us by God. Every single human being on this earth has a conscience. There's a famous psychologist out right now, and in one of his books, he doesn't mention this conscience or anything like that, but he says, if you want to really know yourself, sit on your bed one night and say, what's one thing I'm doing wrong that I know I'm doing wrong that I could fix, that I would fix? He says, if you meditate on that, you'll get an answer. It might not be the one you like, but it will be necessary. We all have the conscience of God. We have this conscience of God which is given to us. And I think sometimes in our lives, in our spiritual lives, in our lives of the world, in our political lives, and whatever that may be, we make things so difficult and complicated. When really we can just close our eyes, focus on our conscience, and ask God, what's right and what's wrong? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to stop doing? The answer will be right there. I guarantee you, if you spend some time in silence, you'll discover it. So I just want to read a few of the quotes from the Catechism that talks about the conscience that we are given, the great gift of our conscience. So it begins deep within. So deep within us, the conscience of man discovers a law which he has not laid upon himself, but which he must obey. So deep within us, there's a law that's been printed on our heart that we have not created, but it's there, and we must obey it. It's a voice ever calling him to love and to do what is good and to avoid evil. So when we get quiet, we become silent, we hear that voice, that conscience deep within us that tells us what is good and what's evil. It sounds in his heart at the right moment, for man in his heart has this law inscribed by God. His conscience is man's most secret core and his sanctuary. So deep within us, at the most secret core and the sanctuary of our hearts, we have a conscience. And there alone, with God, whose voice echoes in the depths. So when we go deep enough into ourselves, God's voice is there. And God can help us know right from wrong. The Catechism continues and says, when he listens to his conscience, the prudent man can hear God speaking. So again, when we listen to that voice deep within us that tells us what is right from wrong, we can hear the voice of God in our lives. Now it says that it's important for every person to be sufficiently present to himself in order to hear and follow the voice of his conscience. So, I'm going to say that first part once more. It's important for every person to be sufficiently present to themselves. So we have to take time to be present with ourselves to hear that conscience. In Pinocchio, when he wants to get rid of his conscience, he goes to Pleasure Island, this island where he can go, and as a little boy, he learns how to do horrible things, drink, smoke, all of that, gamble. And his conscience, he chokes his conscience almost to death. We can do the same thing. So when we go into pleasure, when we go into social media, when we go right to our phones, when we don't allow ourselves time of silence, we can drown our conscience. And so we need to foster that interior life. This requirement of interiority is all the more necessary as life often distracts us from any reflection, self-examination, or introspection. So life does distract us, and we need to spend time to get in touch with that conscience within us. So the Catechism says, return to your conscience. If you've been away from your conscience for a while, if you haven't been in touch with your conscience, return to it, question it, turn inward, and in everything you do, see God as your witness. It's important for every person to be present and to take time to really get in touch with that deep voice within us. The Catechism says we are assisted by the gifts of the Holy Spirit. So we not only have this conscience within us, but we also are given the gift of the Holy Spirit. We're aided by the witness or advice of others, so other people that are there to walk with us and guide us, and by the authoritative teaching of the church. So we're given this beautiful revelation of the church to help us on our way. Finally, conscience is in man's most secret core. It is in his sanctuary. There he is alone with God, whose voice echoes in his depth. So I just want you to think about that, to try to get in touch with your conscience and realize, have you drowned it out with sound or with any other pleasure or activity? When's the last time you've really sat on the edge of your bed and asked yourself, is there anything that I'm doing in my life that is wrong, that I need to change? Or you can maybe kneel next to your bed, and anytime you want, just sign your forehead, may the Lord be in my mind, on my lips, and in my heart. And try to get in touch with Jesus, the conscience deep within you, that you may truly know the will of God for your lives. It's not really that complicated. We all know our conscience. We all know when we have that deep sense in us of right from wrong. So take the straight path, and if you start to slide, give a little whistle, and always let your conscience be your guide.